Thank you. And we are ready to stream. Beautiful day in November. So because November is my month, and you know it's the best month in the year, I'm very excited at the topic that we're going to be discussing tonight. And I want to be sure that we're streaming on YouTube. Are we? Yeah, yes, we are. So I am Dr. Toyin Okpesanmi, a family practitioner, HIV specialist, and I treat substance use disorder in Maryland. I'm in private practice and enjoy the conversations we have weekly on Medical Mondays to prevent, better ourselves, and just to advance health generally, to create awareness in our communities. Things are going on this year that has never happened before, and that led us to tonight. And we've been blessed by Dr. Mercy Luguterah, a licensed social worker and an adjunct faculty of behavioral sciences at the University of Maryland Global Campus. She has in-depth experience providing psychotherapy and creating treatment plans for both children and adults. I'm echoing, and I don't know why. Over the past, thank you, I'm still echoing. So if anyone, please, if you please all mute yourselves, that would be fantastic. For now, thank you. So I was introducing Dr. Luguterah and wanted to mention that she has in-depth experience providing psychotherapy and creating treatment plans for both children and adults. Over the past 16 years, she has served as director for various Montessori schools in Maryland. In that capacity, she spearheaded the development of robust educational programs and addressed the unique needs for children. She is the author of 2 children's books, namely The Red Purse and A Thankful Christmas, which you can get on Amazon. And I encourage everyone to please get copies of these books. They will bless you. And hopefully she will talk about them a little bit in our discussion. In her spare time, she enjoys good music, just like me, researching interesting topics, and taking nature walks. So I give to you tonight, I present Dr. Luguterah. Please take the floor.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I don't recognize myself, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you everyone for giving me the chance to share whatever knowledge I have from the, will I say, non-medical perspective. So like she said, I do a lot of work in the education center. I'm also a social worker, and I get to interact with a lot of people and have very dynamic conversations and get a different viewpoint on so many things that could be affecting people negatively. Because typically when someone comes to see a social worker, it's because something is amiss, right? They don't come because everything is going well. No one's going to show up and say, hey, I'm so excited, I just wanted to say hi to you. No, when they come to you, there's certain things that they're hoping to improve upon. They're looking for a different kind of outcome. So that's where I come in. And one of the things that we've been dealing with a lot in the past 2 years is around, some kind of emotional disorders. We see an increase in that, at least 33% increase in that, people experiencing different kinds of mental disorders or emotional disorders. And so I thought that, this would be a great topic to discuss around this time. So I think the pre-arming, social support, and mindfulness, these are supposedly simple concepts, are very, very instrumental when you're looking at trying to improve your overall wellness, if I should put it that way. I did have some slides. I don't know if I'm able to share them or if someone can share them for me. But I thought I would share that information with you. So I want to begin by defining what
Yes, Dr. Luguterah, you can share your slides, and we don't see you. I'm seeing, just your name. We don't have you. Can you see her? Can anybody see Dr. Luguterah?
Yes, I'm able to see her.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I'm not here.
I'm on two
phones. See her.
No, I can't see her. I can't see her. I can
Okay,
see her on the group
some
chat,
of us
but
can
not on
see
the...
you and some can't.
That's why 2 monitors. So she has to project from the one that she's speaking from.
Okay.
Okay, can you see me now?
That's it. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
This is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me see. Let me try to. Do you see my slides now? Let me try to put it on. Can you see it now? Can you see the slides now?
Yes, we see your slides. They're beautiful.
Okay, great. So sorry about that. So I'm going to begin by defining pre-arming, right? So when we talk about pre-arming, just think about it. Almost like you're going to war, there's something coming. So you try to prepare yourself and just get ready for it. And so when we're talking about wellness, or just improving, your health and your overall emotional well-being, it's important to incorporate this principle of pre-arming. That is, you anticipate that there are going to be life situations. You know that some of them are inevitable, whether it's a loss, a disappointment, not being well, or maybe some kind of not so good news. But there's so many things that happen in our daily living. And so when we're not prepared at all for it, it can catch us unawares, right? And so when you're pre-arming yourself, it basically means that you're building your emotional and mental muscle. You're trying to ready yourself and position yourself strategically so that when those things happen, you can lean on that for some kind of leverage. Think of it more about trying to make sure you have enough gas in your car, in your tank, right? If you're not using electric, and if you're using electric, you want to make sure you have power in it, because when there's a chance to drive somewhere, you don't want it to be a last minute thing where you have to go find enough gas for your car or begin to charge your car when you need to be out of the door. So pre-arming is a similar concept in that way. It's an intentional act. No one is born pre-armed necessarily. You might be born with certain strengths, certain abilities, but actually psyching yourself up or preparing yourself for life's events, planned and unplanned, is something that you have to be very, very intentional about. And how do we pre-arm ourselves? The environment we find ourselves in, our values, our belief system, all of these things impact the extent to which we can pre-arm ourselves or the resources we have available to pre-arm ourselves. There is a direct correlation between the level of preparedness and also the extent of emotional disorder. So let's say the more prepared you are, the lesser the chance of being emotionally disturbed, right? You will still can experience some kind of disturbance, but at least not to the extent where if you're not prepared at all. So pre-arming ourselves becomes very important. So what are the dimensions of pre-arming? What does it exactly entail? Is it one thing? Is it so many things? And the research tells us over and over again, it's not just one thing. It's important to recognize who you are, what your strengths are, what you typically struggle with, and to be able to prepare yourself or position yourself well. So when you talk about dimensions of pre-arming, one of it is the physical dimension, right? Because as a human being, there's different dimensions to you. So if you're pre-arming, you want to be able to cover all those areas of your being. So one of it is a physical being. And your diet alone can determine your mood, right? Diet plays an important role in your overall wellness, right? Things you can be eating, things you're allergic to, things that make you feel too excited, or things that make you feel tired or unhealthy. So you want to figure out what does it mean for yourself. I understand that there is some kind of dieting linked to your blood type. I don't know how practical or how I would say how legitimate that is. So people have different mindsets or different philosophies when it comes to dieting, but definitely You want to be able to engage in one that does your body good, and you know your body best. Exercise is an important thing. Movement, going for nature walks, those things are so essential to your overall well-being. So that's the physical part of it. And then there's the emotional part of it. Are we aware of our feelings? Our feelings are expressions. That's where the crust of the matter is. So if you know that you have a certain kind of temperament where, maybe when the weather changes, you are more likely to be depressed, right? There are people that have, seasonal affective disorders, or they're just, if it's a gloomy day or a rainy day, that automatically changes your mood. And if it's summer, you're automatically smiling. It's important to ask yourself a lot of questions before these things come, right? Winter will always be winter if you're on this side of the world, or if you're in a different part of the world, you know what your triggers are. So planning ahead of time so that you actually have an effective action plan. And when the event happens, you know exactly what to do. Your feelings. So for instance, if you know that you are typically, a bit moody when it's dark, so you know that you cannot prevent darkness, right? Whether it's going to be nighttime darkness or winter and a gloomy day and all those things you cannot prevent them. So you begin to ask yourself important questions. What are things that you have control over? What are the things that you do not have control over? For things that you have control over, you can do something about it. For things that you do not have control over, you can't do much about it, right? So you accept that there'll be darkness. But you don't accept that because there's darkness, you have to feel a certain way. So how do you color your day if you're someone who doesn't like darkness? You can color your day with music, if music is your thing. You can color your day with physical, actual bright colors, if that helps lift up your mood. You can color your day with a lot of exercise. You can color your day with mindfulness, being aware of how you're feeling and taking actionable steps to reverse that, right? And sometimes that can also involve, medication, because that can be very important depending on the extent of your emotional disorder. But being aware, recognizing that, when there is darkness, this is how you feel. And so how can you be proactive about those specific things? The other thing also is a spiritual aspect. Not everyone is a believer. I am a Christian. So my quest for higher meaning means, my daily prayer, my daily study of the word. So if you share a Christian faith or you share another kind of faith, I don't know what it is, but honing in your spiritual awareness also is a practical thing to do. It's actually proven to help people with their feelings because it gives you a sort of anchor you can rely on, but you have to do that consistently so that you're able to lift yourself up and position yourself in a better place to be able to address some of life events. So this is just one piece of it. Pre-arming is also necessary to look at your surroundings. Here, what are the kind of people that you surround yourself with? On the micro level, who do you communicate with on a daily basis, right? Is it your family? Do you live by yourself? Do you have any friends at all? Because those social support systems go a long way, right? On the meso level, your workspace, and maybe just your neighborhood. And then on a macro level, if you're part of a big group or you're into different kinds of organizations and things like that, you want to assess those kinds of relationships to see if those are triggers for you or those are things that are pushing you in the right direction. So looking around you, doing your own assessments, recognizing things that you ought to do ahead of time. You don't want to wait until you're in a really dark place before you begin to implement some of these things. You want to take the time to build your emotional and mental muscle. For people who are very visual, it helps to have words of affirmation all around you. So wherever you turn, you can see something that speaks to you to help you, psych yourself and to do a little bit of cognitive behavioral theory. So you're reframing your thoughts, you're reframing your mindset, you're reframing things that are happening to you, and you're making a difference between things that you have control over and things that you have no control whatsoever. So it's worth noting, if you're pre-arming yourself, no one is 100% well 100% of the time, right? So there are moments where maybe you get bad news, and of course you're going to be, you're not going to be happy about that because it's bad news. You're not necessarily expecting it, or even if you were expecting it, it still hits you the wrong way, right? or you're exposed to some kind of trauma, you lose someone suddenly, or a job loss, or things like that, things that happen in life. So for that moment, yes, you're not going to be happy about it. You're going to be miserable or, angry, all those human emotions. Let yourself experience those emotions, right? Because those are important. Sometimes you need to cry, sometimes you need to be angry, but it has to be contained. So let yourself experience those emotions. And once you've experienced it, you want to be able to revert to all those action plans you had, or all those things you have to be able to help you build up your mental and emotional muscle, because all those things go a long way. And also give yourself some grace, right? You're not going to be happy or excited every day. You might wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or you might be too tired, or, who knows, anything happens in this life at any time. And especially in the past 2 years or more, we've seen how, our lives can change suddenly, but then we also need to have these coping skills so that we can come out better or stronger, right, through the process. So just recognizing that you're not going to be well, you're not going to be excited 100% of the time, but you can at least strive to get closer to that point and to be very intentional about your own wellness and your self-care. Sometimes when we overwork ourselves, then we get very cranky, we get anxious, we get angry, and all those things come into play. So just, knowing who you are, being mindful of your emotions, right? You wake up, that today I don't feel too excited. Okay, I don't feel too excited. What do I typically need to do? What are my strengths? What are the things that give me life? If music gives you life, then you want to make sure you wrap yourself around music. If friends give you life, if there's someone you need to call, if you need to take your medication, if that's what you need to do, then that's what you have to do. If you need to take for a walk, if you need to go for a walk, or if you need to just do some kind of breathing exercises, those are also very important. Those are things that you can do because you're being mindful of your space and of the energy you're carrying with you that day, and to give yourself a little bit of grace, right? So I put this in the picture form, all those things that are important to us. Some of us don't sleep well, and that can go a long way to impact us. So you want to be able to see if you need to get something to help you sleep, or if you need to, whatever the case may be, what you need to do to be able to get to bed early will be important to do. Do you need to dim your lights? Do you need aromatherapy? Because sometimes that helps. Do you need to just, in the summertime, what some people do for therapy is they'll go to the beach and they'll be barefoot, because believe it or not, walking on the beach barefoot is very, very therapeutic for the human body, because you are having a direct connection with nature, and you're walking on just the feel of that, being grounded. Sometimes also people need to be around certain smells, it could be a particular smell, vanilla smell, I don't know, a berry smell, just some kind of a scent that takes you to a peaceful place and helps you calm down. So being very, very intentional about your own wellness and preparing yourself so that you're in a good space emotionally, that goes a long way. So we need to take time to check how well we are, right? I put this picture there, but I also think of our phone. When we look at our phones, right, we charge our phones maybe for some of us once a day, or maybe more than that, or we even have a phone bank, right? A phone charger. We take all these precautions for our phones because we always want to be sure that, we can access our phone when we need to, right? Even if no one is going to call us 24 hours a day, we want to make sure that our phone is at least operating, right? You can decide not to pick certain calls, but at least you want to be in a position where your phone doesn't die on you, because you might need it, right? So in that same way, we are checking, whether it's a 50% battery or 40%, that you need to begin to charge your phone. I don't know of anyone who wants the phone to work and we see that it's at 10% or 5%, and will intentionally ignore to recharge, right? Because if you know you're going to need your phone, to the best of your ability, you want to be able to keep enough power in it so that when you need it, you have your phone working for you. So think of your emotions that way. You want to intentionally charge your emotions so that when you need to respond to something, you are in a better place to respond appropriately and not just to snap at people, because you've taken time to be intentional. What are some of the signs that we are not too well emotionally? If you're constantly sad overly sad. Those are some of the signs of depression, right? And there could be so many reasons why people can feel depressed. It could be situations, it could be some say a chemical imbalance, bad news, loss, all those things I talked about. You're always tired, you don't have a desire to do anything, you're very anxious, you're unmotivated, you're resentful, you're feeling hopeless, you're sleeping more than you ought to, you have very extreme mood swings, all those things. If you're experiencing a number of those factors, or say if you're experiencing more than two of them at the same time, you really want to check yourself to see how well you're feeling, right? How are you reacting to people and to things around you? So if you want to get well, if you want to improve upon our emotions, there's certain things that we need to be intentional about. You have to recognize your triggers. There are different triggers for different people. What might trigger me may not be the same thing that would trigger the next person, but at least for yourself, you do an assessment, because that is part of your self-care, to see those things that might be impacting you. There's something called the eco map, right? Ecological map. So think more about ecosystem, all those things we learn in school. But this is more ecological map, which means the systems that you interact with, right? So this is someone's system, and we all can design one for ourselves. So look at, you are the center. So if I were the one drawing this eco map, my name, Mercy, would be in the middle. And I'll draw arrows to the different people or systems I interact with. Is it school? Is it church? Is it work? Is it family? Whatever it is. And I have to interpret the line. So if there's a broken line, it means that relationship is not the best kind of relationship. It's a relationship that produces negative emotions. If I have a thin straight line, it means that it could go either way. If I have a thick line, it means that could be a strong kind of relationship, right? So for us, we can have our own echo map. There isn't one specific way to do it. You can define your lines however you deem fit. But when you do that exercise, it presents to you the relationships that sap your energy, and also presents to you the relationships that give you life, right? That edify you, that help you build yourself. And you get to decide the kinds of relationship. Which relationship do I need to minimize? Which relationship do I need to be aware of? Which relationships do I need to maybe walk away from? And which relationships do I need to actually nurture? Because in nurturing those relationships, you end up nurturing yourself. So it's a good thing to have the echo map exercise to do. And you ask yourself, do you want to be well? Do you recognize that you are unwell? Have you taken ownership in your emotional state, right? Are you proactive about it? And if you do your own analysis and you see that maybe you're not responding to people the way you should, or you get a lot of people telling you that you're not putting up your best behavior, most times you can also see that we're not doing too well emotionally. If you recognize that, you do want to be able to take steps to address that. One of the things people say a lot is, well, I feel like I have to say yes to everyone. I feel like I have to attend to everyone because I need to be kind. I need to be this. But also you need to recognize that your emotions or your life is not a parking lot, right? So when you think of a parking lot, any car can pull in at any time and pull out at any time without warning. But you want to value yourself and say, I am not a parking lot. I'm a human being. So I have some level of control over the kinds of relationship I find myself in, and the extent to which I want to expose myself or make myself available to people, because all of those things go a long way, right? So social support, looking at your friends, looking at your system. Do you rely on yourself only? Because relying on yourself only is not the best strategy. You always need someone to pull you up, and you might also be needed to pull someone up. So those things go a long way. If you could just see through the slides, the different steps that we need to take to make sure that we are not by ourselves. Spending quality time with loved ones, that goes a long way. If you do have loved ones, volunteering your time, working in your career path, things that you've been called to do. But sometimes you might have to change your career path, right? Recognizing your strengths. You can leverage your strength to improve your mood, right? So you can do that. You can learn a skill. You can teach someone. You can just do a good deed for someone else. And all those things go a very long way. I see a question in there about end-of-life counseling. So end-of-life counseling, yes, that is. Do I need to take that?
We'll be going to the questions, so that we don't distract you from the slides. I'll ask the questions and lump them together once you're done.
Okay, right. So a lot of things you can do. You also can recognize what your issues are. It goes along with when you begin to recognize that I am someone who is sad. I'm someone who, I cannot make decisions. So I'm very anxious. Why are you anxious? Is it because of something in the past? Is it that you think you're going to be a failure? What exactly is going through your mind? And what steps can we take to help you, go over that bridge or cross over to the other side where you're not as anxious or as nervous? And those things are included in what we call a treatment plan, because you set your goals and actionable steps. They're measurable, they're SMART goals, and we go work through those goals one at a time so that you can, at the end of 3 months or 6 months, however long your term is, when you're working on those specific goals to you, things that are very important to you, not to the therapist, not to what people think, but goals that are important to you. If you focus on them bit by bit, you're able to see at the end of the day, I would say much progress in your overall wellness, right? Because you would have built that emotional and mental muscle, and you're more positioned, in a better position to address certain things when they come our way or when they come your way. And then also therapy is important, or taking medication. I don't shy away from telling some people, depending on, the extent or severity of their emotional disorder, sometimes they need medication and therapy, right? To be able to go through, to get to the other side of feeling well or feeling better about themselves. So in wrapping up, I'll say you deserve to be well. Everyone deserves to be well, but you have to begin by pre-arming yourself and also recognizing that, self-care is important. I like to give this analogy of a glass and a plastic. Even at work sometimes, when I go to work and there's so much to do, I ask myself, what is glass today? What is plastic, right? If you have glass and plastic and you have to drop something, the best thing to drop will be plastic, because plastic you can pick it back up. But when you drop glass and it breaks, you can't pick it back up. It's harder to pick back up. It will not be in one piece when you get to it. But if it's plastic, you can drop it and you can go back and pick it up after you've dealt with the glass. So I'd like to split my day into what is glass, what is plastic, what do I absolutely need to get to, what is it that can wait? Anything that can wait I consider that my plastic. Anything that cannot wait, I consider that to be glass. So I'll begin my day with glass and end up with plastic. And sometimes I don't have enough time to get to plastic. So I'm just going to deal with the glass for the day and see what the next day brings. But I find that doing those things, and having a plan goes a long way to help me to calm down. And I see that it helps a lot of the people that I speak to, just knowing what battles to pick, what to focus your energy on, and what to let go, at least for a certain time. So that is all I have to say. And I'm ready for your questions now.
Oh, wow. Wow. And for that to be a last minuter, that, you put this together like this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you would like to remove the slides so that we can see you better. We want to see you. We'd love to see you. Look at her. Beautiful. Thank you. So this year is incredible. On this forum, we have talked a lot about, mental health, but not like this. This year, I noticed something that maybe others on this platform would have noticed. Please let me know if you have or not. It gets dark. We know that in the winter. But this winter, it gets pitch black and really fast. By 5 o'clock, it's like pitch darkness. It's black. It's beyond dark, for lack of better words. And I'm seeing a lot of people with mood disorder, especially depression. I didn't realize we have so much depression surrounding weather changes until this year. And that was why I felt we need to drop everything and address this in our community. Thank you so much for that robust education. I told you you're coming back again next week because, I mean, we can't. This is a subject that is important. Now, before I even go to the question of end of life, maybe I should let you address that, and then because I want us to really dig deep into what the real issues you have discussed are. Dr. Craig asked that question on end of life counseling. How is it approached?
So yeah, end of life. So there are different ways we approach it, right? And also it has a lot to do with the person's culture, with the person's belief, and all of that, right? So I can give you different examples. For some of the clients I work with, they have family members in hospice or on their way to hospice. So, or it could be that a person has just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. So they know that, in the absence of a miracle, your days are numbered. A lot of the time when people are, it goes both ways. The person who is being diagnosed and has a number of days to live, plus family members that they might be concerned about, or family members who are not ready to accept the diagnosis. But at the end of the day, when we get the paperwork and it's confirmed that this person is really at the end of their life, we ask that person, what is important to you? Now that you've been given this diagnosis, which may not be what you were expecting, what is going through your mind? It's important to find out from people what they're going through. Do they have any regrets? Do they have any unfinished business? Do they have anything that they think that they can begin to work on? At least they have control over those things, because they don't have control over the number of days in the absence of a miracle. So how do you prepare someone to brace that time? There will be, emotions, there will be tears, but you're just helping that person to go through the process. So we do a lot of family talk. We ask them, if you have to think about the 3 most important things that you wish you would have done, but you've not done, can you write them down? Are there any things that you feel like you want to leave behind? Is there any paperwork that you need to complete, so that your inevitable passing is not harder than it should be when on the family members you leave behind? So these are very tough questions we ask them, but we have to ask them. And so based on the responses they gave us, we take it that way. Do you want us to bring your entire family together to talk about it, right? Some people will say, yes, I need my wife. I cannot tell my family. Can you be there when I tell them, or can you help me break the news to them? And so we explain to family members what end of life means. It means this person is just counting down. How can you help them count down? After the tears, after everything else, is there any unfinished business that we need to help this person through? And sometimes the person will tell you, I just want, just pain management, just make me comfortable. That's all I want. They might be angry at first, but then they go through the grieving stages and they get to a place of acceptance. And they say, I just need pain medication. That's all I need. Put me in this hospice. My family members, I need them to know that I love them. They have a chance to, I would say, sort of make it right before they pass on. And so it's different for every family. Some see it as an opportunity to put things right before they leave, and they're thankful that at least they know it's coming. Some members are never able to accept it, but it happens nonetheless. But it's just a matter of talking through them and recognizing or addressing what might be important to them. Sometimes they have family or children that they may not have been in touch with, they've lost contact with, and we have to help them try to track their children, so they can be reunited, because that is what is important to that person at that time. They want to be reunited with family. They want to resolve issues, or they want to be able to rewrite their wills, or all those important paperwork that has to be completed in this country. We use that time to do all of that, and it's included in the counseling.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What about the instance in African communities where people don't share? We're very good about sealing, keeping quiet. A patient is told that they have cancer or they have this issue, and they are at the end of life and they still don't share with family members. How do you handle that?
So for us, for social workers, we also are bound by confidentiality and ethics and all those murky waters that sometimes you have to meddle. So if a client chooses not to disclose to the family, we cannot go behind the client and disclose, because that's breach of confidentiality, right? So we cannot necessarily do that. Sometimes what we do is we try to encourage a family member. Think about it. When you're gone, what do you think is going to happen to your members, your family members who didn't know anything about it? Reconsider your decision, right? Sometimes we're able to convince them to say, okay, I'm going to tell just one person, but I don't want that one person to tell anyone until I'm gone, right? So then if that's what they want, then that's what we have to do. But we try to get people to change their mind. And it's hard to do, right? Our hands are tied when, because this is not a case of abuse where you're a mandated reporter, so you have to report even if the person wants you to or not. This is a personal decision. And so when it comes to that, our hands are really tied. We try to convince them. Sometimes we can ask, okay, do you want your family member to look at your records and be able to decipher through the lines what they think is happening to you? And sometimes we say, yes, they can look at my records, but I'm not going to tell them, right? So then we can hand over and say, these are the records, these are the diagnoses, and let the family members figure out on their own. So we can tell them without telling them. But at least they give us a consent to let the family member read through their chart or see what's going on. So that we can do. But beyond that, if they don't want the family members to know, you cannot take that away from them. You can't. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm coming back to the depression, but thank you so much. That is helpful. Madam VP, go ahead, ma'am. You have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. To that question, there are a range of forces at play, particularly culture. Dr. Ajagbe shared something during the week about there's a thin line between faith and fear. Even though the person that is sick and about to depart, they understand what their body is going through. But, particularly if they're Christians, we keep encouraging them and say no. And even when they want to admit that they are really sick, it says, no, we don't confess that. So we are sometimes part of the problem, not allowing them to actually fully transition to that reality of, hey, it's going to be over soon, and whatever you have control over right now, take, So people kind of ascribe that to being lack of faith when they admit that this is the state where they are, and, it may not end the way they thought it would end. They ascribe that to be, okay, you don't have faith, So the culture and our faith culture especially has a lot to do with it. But things are changing. Thank God for Medical Monday. We make disciples of, a few at a time by educating ourselves on this matter. The same thing with life insurance. A lot of people, particularly men, African men, feel like the day they purchase life insurance, or God forbid, they even have to buy a plot where they'll be buried. So that's one of those hard questions, tough conversation in the family.
Yeah.
But it has to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There is indeed a question also in the forum about the life insurance in general too. Dr. and Dr. Ajay, one of them, wrote, kindly advise us on the essence of life insurance in general too. I lost between May 24th to Wednesday before Thanksgiving this year, 2022, I've lost 12 people. And you know that none of them had life insurance. So please address that issue.
So life insurance is a bit outside my scope of practice. There are people that are specialists when it comes to that, but I know that I personally have life insurance. And I got it because, anything can happen to anyone at any time, right? Your health can change at any time. You could be eating well and exercising well, and then you could be hit with some kind of random thing. No one knows, right? And so life insurance is just like you have car insurance, is what I say to people. You have car insurance. They don't even allow you to drive your car without insurance, right? So why would you want to carry your body around, this human body, that does everything for you. Why would you want to carry it around without any kind of insurance? Plus, if you don't, depending on the type of insurance you get, if you get term insurance, maybe for 20 or 30 years, well, if nothing happens to you within those 20, 30 years, then, that's it. You no longer have any insurance over you, right? After 30 years, it's called term, so it expires at a certain point. But if you have, the life insurance that doesn't necessarily have any term to it, even if you don't get to use it, is another way of transferring wealth to your family. Because when you are gone, whatever that time is, that insurance or that money, whatever amount you're insured for, is automatically transferred to whoever you identify on your policy. So even if it doesn't benefit you, it's going to make someone's life down the line easier. And I say to myself, if, not that I'm wishing for someone to die, but death is inevitable, right? No matter how long you live, if you're going to be on this planet for another 100 years, 200 years, none of us is going to live to that point. You're going to pass. So you're just giving, I would like to say, a better future to the next generation. And you're also securing yourself, because if anything should happen to you, you are going to be okay, whichever way you look at it, right? And I think for us, sometimes the concept of paying it forward can be challenging. If I don't see an immediate benefit, why do I want to do it, right? We have that mindset of it has to benefit me now. Or you would say, depending on what the amount is, we will spend money on other things, a lot more money on, will I say, gele shoes, all those things, which are equally important. I mean, yeah, you have to live your life, but we can spend money on other things, but when it comes to life insurance, because we don't consider it important, suddenly we don't have the money for it. So I think it's worth considering, but you get a policy that makes sense to you, a policy that you can actually afford. So having something, however little, I think is better than having nothing at all, because either you will need it or you would give it to someone who is dear to you and it will benefit them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to call on Dr. Craig and then Dr. Izugu after that. You both have your hands raised. Maybe you would address what I wanted to say. So go ahead, Dr. Craig.
One of the things, and I will acknowledge that the importance of life insurance is critical. It's absolutely critical. Otherwise, those who are remaining have been left an entire keg of worms, so to speak. But one of the things which I've been told by individuals is that why am I paying to die when I should be paying to live? So that money that they would ordinarily be putting into a life insurance policy, which would benefit those who are remaining, to them should be put into the living so they can get as much of the living as they can. Now, backward thinking, of course, I won't deny that, but it's a very real thought to very many. And as Dr. O pointed out, in some cases, even more so to men than to women, per se. So trying to convince the mindset that part of living is dying, and we should prepare ourselves in all ways that we can, is the challenge. That's the challenge where we can bring that forward. Difficult at times, but it needs to be done every time we have the opportunity to address it and or speak to it. I'll also add quickly that there, and Dr. O brought this forward, there are levels of depression. There's a level which basically we are just paralyzed to do anything, and then there's a level where we might continually rise up, put a shirt and tie on, get dressed, get pretty, and go to work. But in truth, how can I say, we're running on empty at that point in time, and everything becomes almost numb to them, per se. So it's being able to address that issue at that time, and also challenging the way some of us think. But wonderful that you're bringing things forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Craig. You know, I said it. That's why I'm allowing people to say what they want to say first before I say something. My sister Monique posted something that I wanted to mention, and this is going to blow your mind. So, but Dr. Zugu, please go. I'm excited. That's what we're going to learn. You're still muted. Dr. Zugu.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Excellent. Yeah, thanks for the presentation and thanks for really the discussion on this life insurance thing. Especially for those who are, you live abroad, that you're gonna, having life insurance is vital. Dying is guaranteed to everybody. And the thing is that some people don't buy it, and then they die here, and then people have to contribute money to take their body home because they want to take their body home.
GoFundMe.
And you wonder, okay, if this is important to you, how much would it cost to take your body home? The amount of money required for that insurance to take your body home is small amount. Now, if you want to get life insurance, which you must have, you can choose to just fulfill the idea of taking your body home, which will be very small amount of money, and take care of those transportation and also your burial and whatever. Small amount, everybody can afford that. You can also choose to get insurance where if you die, it can take care of other issues that you may have, including supporting your family and stuff like that, which means, again, continue your commitment to maintaining a family situation. It may cost you a little bit more, but you can do that. But then you can also get insurance where you can take care of your family here and also insurance family, overseas, so that, you can, even if you die, the amount of money they have spent in, on your life, you can still be able to help them out. Okay. Now, all those are different levels of insurance you can have. Now, if you have the fear that when you buy the insurance, somebody's going to kill you to get that money, then buy something, at least have something that can remove the burden from everybody else when you die, because you eventually will die. We're all going to die. So I think it's extremely important that we really get people to understand the value of this insurance issue. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I said sorry about that. Thank you so very much. Thank you for that contribution. I was going to talk about universal life. My husband and I, like you said, Dr. L, my husband and I got the term life insurance that was for 20 years. And 20 years went like this. When we got it, it seemed like it was forever. And then it was after it was over that I realized, oh my gosh, insurance is over. And now they wanted like $3,000 a month because my age was not the age when we got it. So compare that to universal life insurance, which Sister Monique, she said everything I wanted to say. She said universal life insurance is beneficial for the living as well as the dead. There are tons of benefits to having life insurance. Even if you become critically ill, there are policies that will pay you a monthly income. It's a retirement plan for people as well. It's critical. Guess what? I just found out about all of this not too long ago, and it is about our health. Stay tuned on Medical Mondays because I'm going to bring the experts. You can make money with getting this insurance. My universal life insurance, at a point in my life, I needed critical money. Do you know that I didn't know that I had money that was tax-free, that I could just get from it? And I was able to the letter just came at the right time from the insurance company telling me I had X thousands of dollars in this insurance. I was like, what? I called them and I got that funding. And I was still alive. I'm still alive. So, Dr. Zugu is right. In our culture, with our people, and as Madam VP said, they both echoed the same thing. they say, don't say it because you'll be calling it a life. It's not true. These things are going to happen. Death is going to happen. Or Christ will come again. Either or is going to happen. So let's prepare. Nobody's going to kill anybody, to get your life insurance. But we will talk more about it because it's really not the topic for tonight. But, I said it. Remember? I said it, Dr. L, that the questions is going to direct what we discuss. Madam VP, you have your hand raised, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I know you want to move away from this.
No, please. Okay. Go ahead.
But I mean, just one thing is just to kind of amplify what Dr. Craig said about some reasoning about, why don't I pay for life instead of paying to die or something like that. Yeah, life would happen, but it's not just any insurance. You don't even need to be paying for the insurance to die. There's also long-term care. You may not die. If you get sick and you have to be in a convalescent home, your quality of life will depend on the quality of insurance that you have. So that's another critical thing that needs to be considered. And for those who are young, please invest in it now. Those who are aging, you can still get something.
Thank you so much for that information. And thank you for the encouragement. It is important. That's why we're having this conversation, but be rest assured, I'm going to bring the experts to expatiate on this universal life and there's a lot more. And insurance, when somebody is invalid, all of those, we are bringing them because it's part of our health. My sister,
can you please bring underwriters too, Dr. O? Because
okay,
it's very important for us to hear this and then not act. Underwriters that can help us out.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do that. Definitely. Please stay tuned. We will. Thank you. My sister Grace Obebe, come on. Ask your question. I saw your question. I was holding it, so go ahead.
Okay, that question is still to be asked the awesome presenter. That was a beautiful presentation. And I thank you for bringing our presenter on tonight. But just to echo in on what we're talking about on life insurance, we are, at least I know most of us on this line are first-generation Americans. To help our children, just like the folks that we know have been here for generations, help their own descendants. When a child is 2 years old or even younger, the amount of insurance you can get for that child is a lot less when the children grow older. So the opportunity we didn't have is that we are getting the insurance that we buy for ourselves at an age that is at a disadvantage to us. But for our children, it is so minimal. It is unbelievably so minimal that if you have children or grandchildren, I have grandchildren, and what I'm encouraging my children to do is buy the life insurance while their children are still young, like I did for my children. I've done it for my children because I understood that it's better to buy for them when they are younger. It's cheaper, a lot cheaper. And so if we can do that for our children and encourage our children to do that for their children, I think life will be a lot better. And there are various types of insurances, like Dr. O just pointed out. Choosing the right type because of awareness and education comes a long way in making the right choice for yourself. That's
wow.
My contribution.
Do you know you opened a can of worms? That is, you know what? Well, I know you personally. That is bold. Bold in the right direction. our people will say, you buy life insurance for your children, that the person is wishing that their child would die. That's not the case.
No.
It's not the case.
It is
That's
to,
the tough
to
one.
save them. It's to save them the hassle that we are dealing with. Because if you wait till you're 40 to buy life insurance, you know how much you pay annually or monthly if you're paying monthly. But when you buy it when they are young, it's theirs. No human being is going to be so wicked to kill their children only for, well, I don't want to say no human being, but we are not going to kill our children because of life insurance. We just want to make their lives better. And they can take it over when they grow up enough to be able to sustain the payments on the life insurance policies. And at a very, very reduced rate. The rate will not change because they've grown older, but you've tapped in when the children were young.
Whew.
So that, Grace, that is extremely, because let me tell you, we use life insurance on our kids, right? And, of course, it was accumulating money for them. And
Absolutely.
those that got scholarship when they went to school, the money that accumulated in their life insurance, we use them to give them down payment for their house if they wanted to buy a house.
Absolutely. Yes.
And they also, so when they were graduating, they have money they can sit on to do anything. If they want to buy a house, they can buy a house. So people have to understand the value of these things. And it's not a lot of money. Once you buy it at that young value, after a couple of years, you can add more money to it, and it's just accumulating money for them. It's very important, really important.
So thank you so much, both of you. But make sure you're on the forum when I bring in the experts to talk about this, because this is very, very important. Sister Monique just wrote, you can use the insurance to create generational wealth.
Amen.
It will build compound interest, which can make them financially independent if you start early. And when Dr. Zugu was talking, she wrote, absolutely, because it's right on the money. You both right on the money. This is a subject that, because of lack of knowledge, our people don't want to talk about. Madam VP said it. When you're older, you're going to pay more. She said it in one of the things she said. And, we're going to deal with that. I promise. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I promise. We're going to deal with this, and you can build generational wealth even for yourself. There are insurances you can use to do that. And we will discuss, how to navigate that, because that is part of our health. Part of the reasons why people are depressed this season is because of money. It's Christmas time. Gifts and all, everything is expensive. Things have gone, just haywire. And people are not making necessarily more. And it's causing some people depression. Just imagine if you have some wealth accumulating somewhere that you can tap into. Isn't that part of health? So, coming back to depression, some people think depression is something that is like maybe high blood pressure or, diabetes, that the pressure is high to a certain extent, Dr. Zugu will tell you. And so you diagnose high blood pressure, or, the blood sugar is certain level, so you diagnose diabetes. That it's not like that. Your back hurts and you have back pain. Yes, you have back pain. Depression is not like that. Depression is a constellation of symptoms. And I'll run over that series of symptoms that one can have. If you have any of this, please connect with your doctor so that you can get cared for. A lot of people have depression for years and they cannot attain the best they can because they're not functioning at their best. And you know what? It's a simple fix. Don't let's get scared anymore about mental health. Let's remove the stigma associated with mental health. Because if you or someone have sad mood, and I like to call it sad mood, or agitated mood, you know, snapping at people, unhappy most of the time, that's a symptom. For depression to be diagnosed, people have to have a certain number of all of these symptoms that I'm going to list. And I'm not going to tell you how many, because I don't want you diagnosing yourself. If you identify yourself or someone else having this, please reach out to me. I'll connect you to care. Sad mood or agitation most of the time. Anhedonia. What do we call anhedonia? The inability to have the get-go, to get up and do things that one normally has fun doing. It's a chore. It becomes a chore to get up and go and do things. You just don't feel like it. You know, it's almost like malaise. You know, that's a symptom. Sleeping too much or not sleeping enough. What we call insomnia. Not able to fall asleep, you know, not sleeping long enough. You can't sleep, you wake up, or something like disjointed sleep, insomnia. Or some people will be on the other end, they'll be sleeping too much. Not having appetite or eating too much. That can go either way. Poor energy, no energy. And that is different from what I described before, not having the get-go to get up and do things that one enjoys doing. Then, you know, low energy, generally, just tired. Guilt feelings, you know, all those thoughts about, oh, I caused this, you know, if I'd done this, I shouldn't have done this. Guilt feelings in different forms. Poor concentration, not being able to concentrate on task, on work. Even watching TV may be a chore. Not being able to concentrate. Poor memory, you know, forgetting things. Suicidal ideations. In our society, we've had people commit suicide because we have not been vigilant. Suicidal ideas, suicidal ideations with plan. These are the symptoms that one can have when they have depression. It doesn't have to be all of it, like I said. We have a number of it that people, when they have it, it's depression. We have a doctor, medical doctor, their community, everybody described him as an amazing human being, a man who has impacted so many lives. And married to a doctor, has a son who is a doctor, a daughter who is a lawyer. They have 2 children. He hung himself in his garage. His wife came home to find him dead. And you know what? He has a friend. There are many that have noticed that he wasn't the same anymore. His friend talked to him, this particular friend talked to him, another doctor, 2 weeks before he committed suicide. And to the conversation they were having, his answers were, yeah, no, yes. And the friend asked, are you okay? Are you depressed? He said, oh no, I'm okay. And the friend left it. Do you know how the friend felt 2 weeks later when he committed suicide? Because he himself is a physician and even addressed it, touched it. I said, are you okay? Are you depressed? Somebody who carries on conversation with you normally and now talking in monotones, please get help. let's pay attention to ourselves and attention to others around us. It can be a lifesaver, especially during this season. Can be a lifesaver. I've seen a lot during this season, and we should not take things for granted with people around us. On the platform, Dr. Ajay said, still on the African culture, please help us know more on the pros and cons of a nursing home in respect to the well-being and mental health for the entire family members. So, Dr. Luguterah, that's a question I'm going to defer to you. And there's one earlier on that tags with that. Now that we know the general constellation of symptoms of depression, please, let's address the issue of nursing home as it relates to our culture, the pros and cons, and the well-being and mental health for the entire family.
Okay, so that is a layered question. So a nursing home, I mean, everything when it comes to care also, we cannot deny the cultural component to that. But there are different layers. Let's say nursing home can be for someone who's going to be there for years, or it can be for someone who has to be there for a short time. They need rehab or something like that. They cannot go home right away, so they're discharged. People are discharged from hospital to a nursing home, because a nursing home sometimes also has a rehab side to it. So discharge a nursing home, and you can be there for months, and then when you feel much better after you've gone through all this therapy, PT, OT, all these kinds of therapies, and you're in a better place, then you can go home. Some people may not get to go home, and some people do pass away at the nursing home. That's a reality. At the end of the day, you want to ask yourself, people go to nursing home for different reasons, right? If the level of care for that person is such that they cannot get it at home, then keeping them at home may not be to their advantage, right? Because there's no one taking care of them. Everyone goes to work and all of that, right? And so in that instance, the next best thing would be to find a nursing home that will take care of their needs, right? They're different. Every nursing home has its own specialty, right? Some nursing homes are not equipped to take care of certain illnesses. So it's important to figure out, what the nursing home offers. And if they, whatever you're needing support from, if they can actually give you that kind of care that your family member needs. So if they can't afford that care, you take your family member there. And it just means that when you're away, there are eyes on that person. You get to visit them, you get to go there and comfort them, you get to do all those things, but they're also under the physical care or the special care of people that are trained to do that job. Is that nursing home negligence? Yes. There are those things. Like any other profession, there are people that may not be the best representatives of their profession. So there is that. But no one says, well, I mean, there are lawyers that are not so good, so I'm not going to look for a lawyer even if I need one. You're just going to have to be more careful who you choose to represent you or which hospital you choose to go to. So there is that. The other thing too is if you are in a position where your family member can age in place, that is also recommended. What does it mean to age in place? That is an alternative to nursing home. So if you have the money, you have the means, you have people that can actually care for your family member, they can age in place at home, right? You can redesign things. Maybe the bedroom becomes to the lower level, and then you can have round the clock care. You can have people, we call that home health care. So that's an alternative to nursing home. People can actually, health professionals can actually come to the home, whether daily or many times a week. So you can have that option if you can afford it. So that's where the money thing also comes in. Nursing home, you also must have the money, right? If you want to be in a nursing home for a long time, you have to be able to declare that you don't have a lot of money or property in your name, right? Because if you do have that in your name, then you're going to be able to, you'll be required to fund yourself, to pay for your bills until you run out of money, so to speak, right? You cannot have a certain amount of money and expect that your insurance will cover you. Sometimes your insurance can cover you for a certain number of days. I think it's 100 days. And then after that, it becomes maybe a certain percentage they're going to pay, and all, and on and on and on and on. So there's an aspect of insurance as well. But overall, if you are not able to care for a family member, if they have an acute illness, it's better that you put them in that nursing home, because they can have someone to care for them and you can go visit them, right? So that is a pro for those kinds of things. The con is sometimes when an elderly person is displaced, right? If it's someone who's been independent and they earned a living, they had a life, they were able to be around a lot of friends, and now they're going to be in a nursing home. That can be very disorienting if they're not prepared well before being taken to the nursing home. And if you're going to take them to the nursing home, you want them to be able to have certain artifacts that are important to them, so that at least they can personalize certain things about their new environment, right? Because some people, if all you have is your home, right? You've worked all your life, all you have is your home, and you're being asked to leave your home. You cannot take much with them to a nursing home. If you're being asked to leave your home, you're not prepared for that journey, and you don't get to take anything with you that can ground you in your new space. That can be very, very challenging. So it's important to be cognizant of those things if nursing home is a way to go. And sometimes nursing home is the only way to go, depending on your circumstances. So I would say it's something that we feel like, oh, it's not thing to do. If you take a family member to a nursing home, it means you've abandoned them. I mean, the worst case is if you leave them at home by themselves. We've seen some elderly people with dementia just wandering because there was no one at home and they wandered out of the house, right? And that became another issue. So if you don't want to send a person to a nursing home, then you must make sure that they have care 24/7. And not everyone is in a position to do that. So I'll say those are things that we have to that one has to consider when you're thinking about nursing home.
Thank you. Wow. Now I get it. When they start asking people for a lot of money, it's because of what they have. I didn't know that. I get it. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So to piggyback on that, on that mental health, and this is a very important question that when I saw it, I stopped for a minute to think myself that, okay, so what do you do? How do you handle this? And I'm searching through here to find it again. It said, how do you convince young adults of the importance of managing their mental health needs without being considered part of the problem? How do you do that? And I imagine, I'm just adding this, to just broaden the scope a little bit. When it comes to teenagers, young adults who feel, okay, I can now get my own. Teenagers, we know that they bond with friends better than parents at that time. And, young adults who feel, okay, I should be able to man my own. I should be able to handle my own. And you see clearly that they're depressed. They need help. They need intervention. How do you convince them? Because now we went through all of these questions. There's a question that also asks on the bottom that if that happens, Sister Lola says, if that happens to someone that constellation of depressive symptoms that I listed, please, how do you get help for them as soon as possible? So I think, the link with each other.
So yes, I'll try to answer your two questions. When it comes to our teenagers, I think that is a critical age. So first of all, we ought to be aware or cognizant of the need or the emerging need of the teenage years, right? And if we were to use one of the development theories, which I normally like to refer to, that is Erik Erikson. When you look at the teenage years, what they're vying for is their identity, right? That is, I would say, the emerging need for that age group coming into their own. So they either discover their own identity or they end up in what we call role confusion. When a teenager is experiencing depression or any of these mental disorders or emotional disorders, it's not a one-day thing. It doesn't happen in a day. There is typically a sequence to it. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. And so if you're going to recommend some kind of a therapy or sees a distress in a teenager, unfortunately, some of the crises we see in immigrant children or teenage children can be traced back to the kind of dynamic at home. So if we're going to ask our children to go for therapy, we also need to look at ourselves to see if perhaps we are also contributing to some extent. I'm not saying that is always the case, but typically there is a role that we might have played, right? Maybe we are not understanding their perspectives or the pressures that they also are under. Social media is a lot of pressure. I don't know if we realize that. The kind of age or generation that they're growing in, it's a lot of pressure, a lot of information, misinformation, a strong need to be something else, a strong need to grow up so fast, And so if they are not grounded in who they are when they're younger, as they age and begin to find their identity, that can lead to a lot of confusion and a lot of emotional disorders. So, like I said, it doesn't happen in a day. So we have to look at all their surroundings. Yes, teenagers will gravitate towards your friends, but if there is a relationship at home, a true relationship at home, no matter how much you gravitate, when they come home, home becomes a landing ground for them, a place where they can ask questions, they can communicate to let off some of that steam. And think even of us as adults. Sometimes you just want to talk to someone. They may not have the solution, but when you feel like at least I can talk to somebody, anybody, to be able to get through some of my emotions or concerns or stuff like that, when you're able to just talk, that can take off the load. So we want to ask ourselves, is there space for our children, our teenagers to talk to us? Or do they get the, I told you so, this is what you have to do, right? So that puts on layers and layers. And we also have to recognize that the kind of resilience we got from growing up in our native country, they don't have that exposure. So we can't expect them to handle all those weights that we have been able to carry because we were exposed to a different kind of environment, right? They don't understand where we are coming from, but we are living in two worlds. So we ought to be able to cross over to them. We can't expect them to cross over to us because they've not lived our lives. They don't have the same level of resilience. So we ought to see those things and be, empathize to an extent because they're carrying a lot of weight, emotional weight, a lot of things going on around us. So we ought to be able to approach that conversation with a lot of I would say, diplomacy and be delicate about it. And if indeed you find that your child is, not doing too well, the first thing you want to say to them is not, let's go for therapy. No, just find ways to see what is challenging you. Have a conversation. Let the conversation begin at home before you take them to see a therapist. Let it begin at home. How you feel, I've noticed this, find those organic moments. We are quick to say, I'm going to take you to therapy. But if you don't have the root cause, if the home environment is a root cause, they can go to therapy a million times. They're coming back to the source of the issue. So you're not gonna see much of a change, right? But if you are working with them and say, I'm gonna go with you, I think we need to work through this. What do you feel? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Just have that conversation. Because without that conversation, even if they go to therapy, they will just sit through it. I have people come and just sit through. They're there because they were told they had to come, not because they wanted to come. You want a teenager to want to, right? So you want to get them to a place where they want to, and you can have that honest conversation and begin to open the path for them. But if we just say they have to go, we don't need it. Sometimes we need it more than they do. And we could be the cause of whatever they're going through. So it's helpful to look at it from a broad perspective and to say, what can I do on a daily basis to be able to see that I am not contributing towards that? I'm actually creating a home environment. So even if it's crazy outside, when they come home, they can ask me any question, right? They can talk to you about anything. That's the kind of space you want them to have, because when they go to a therapist, they also will need to feel comfortable enough to begin to tell the therapist the true reason why they're experiencing whatever they're experiencing. So you might as well begin it at home. Let the charity begin at home, and then it becomes easier if they have to go somewhere else, because they're dealing with cross cultures, they're dealing with a lot of other things, and sometimes we are lost. We don't even recognize that we are contributing to whatever stresses they're going through. So that would be my response to that. That we have to be intentional and do a better job as adults, as parents, and just recognize that the resilience we had, they used to tell us, get over it, right? Over here, you can't necessarily say that. Get over what? Get over what? If a person is really struggling and they don't have the same resilience that we had, they don't have it. So we ought to recognize that first and be able to support them where needed.
Thank you so much. Oh my God. You're so right. I say it all the time. If my children, well, some of my children are on the platform, they will say that. I say all the time that your generation, what's wrong with you guys? Even with work, they come home from work, they're exhausted. And I'm wondering, excuse me, what did they do? Didn't I come home from work too? And I'm doing this and that and that and that after that? What's the big? You're right. We need to change our mindset. And we are the ones who need to cross over to them. Like Sister Kendi wrote up here, and not vice versa. We are going to need lots of African parents to listen to this, is what she said. And that is true. And our prayer on Medical Mondays is that our populace here, our Medical Mondays family, will get it and then educate others. And that's where it starts. We make a ripple, and that ripple ripples, and that ripple ripples. We need to get it. Thank you so much, because, I just got it. I'm always like, your generation, what's wrong with you? I'm telling you, my children on the platform right now will be laughing that, yeah, she finally got it. Wow. Dr. Zugu, laughing? You're laughing at me? Are you different?
I'm laughing with you, because the reason why, this is so important, because, our kids, they understand the value of talk therapy. Many of them understand the standard that we have as first, parents from Nigeria or from other countries or whatever, the standard we have. Many of them understand the value of what we put in them. But the type of challenges they face are different. So, and many of them are utilizing talk therapy of some therapists who are also understand those cultural differences, where they can just go talk it out, And so among themselves, if you talk to them among themselves, they will recognize that they do use talk therapy, and they can encourage the other members to use the same. It really breeds a balanced attitude for them. They can know then that you have value in them, and they can go out fighting for more. They will not use you as the talk therapist. They have to use somebody else. They can just share those things, and then that person can then tell them, what your parents or whoever is doing is actually valuable for you. You gotta see what it is in the future. Listen, I remember some of my kids wanted to break their life insurance to just take their money and just do whatever they want to do. I said, no. But when they finally got some of it, they paid down for their house, they enjoyed it. So let's just, yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Zugu, you're talking about talk therapy, and somebody should be there or has to be there to be the listener and also the contributor. So we have to pray for them to be surrounded by the right people. He has to be the right talk therapist.
Sure.
So to say, talk therapist.
No, that is very, very true. And there are people who do that, who understand those cultural differences, and you may not have to go with them. They really have different issues. And we have to also understand that, they know certain things more than we do. but there are core values that we have that we need to give them.
Yes. Yes, and that is true. And you know what? I said something earlier that we Africans need to get this. I've been corrected. And African Americans, not with all of us. We need to get it. We need to pay more attention to our mental health. Our Caucasian counterparts are doing that. You know, they do better. Dr. Zugu, don't you see that? You tell our Caucasian counterparts this is what is wrong and all of that. They're like, what do I need to do to fix that?
Exactly.
What's the next step, Doc?
Yep.
Our sisters and brothers, no matter where the Black is from, will go, oh, it's not my lot in Jesus' name. Oh, no, that, Wait, no, Doc, please don't pronounce that.
Yep.
Please don't pronounce that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because, for whatever reason, we have come to the opinion that if I say I have a headache, then, it's a problem. If I have a headache, why can't you say I have a headache? I remembered Pastor Dr. Ogundipe saying that somebody called him to talk to him about, certain issues and said, the person said, my enemy is suffering from whatever. And Dr. Ogundipe said, oh, then we don't need to do anything about it since your enemy is suffering. They should leave them to suffer. And I said, no, you don't get it. Because they don't want to say they are the ones that are suffering from this entity. It's their enemy. We need to change that mindset. Yes, we should pronounce positivities, but it's when you actually cursing somebody that that attends to you. Don't curse somebody. You should not issue curses and all. But something is going on. Let's face it and address it. Mental health is real. And when Dr. Luguterah was presenting, she said some things. She said, sometimes it is environmental, and she gave examples of how it could be. Sometimes it could be situational. She gave examples of situations, and sometimes it could be chemical imbalance. And medications can be needful. It's okay to take mental health medication. But, in talking about that, I don't want to forget to talk about light therapy, because some people are great when the weather is nice, when it's summer, spring, summer, they're fantastic. But as soon as it starts getting dark, then they have this seasonal disorder. Could be affective disorder, depression, what have you. We've seen that light therapy actually may work for these people. And I posted on the forum earlier on, so I don't forget the suggestion of a light. Now, I don't work for any company, and I'm not marketing the light source, but this is one that has proven to be good. And if somebody is in that situation that has that, we are not establishing patient-doctor or doctor-patient interaction or relationship on this forum. This is a suggestion that, this light, Verilux Happy Light, put on for 15 minutes to 30 minutes in the morning is actually helpful for some people, and it can be mounted, it can be put on the stand, it can be used in different ways. Our Dr. Kehinde Elisha just wrote here that Africans think, keep it all to yourself. Don't talk to anyone. Isn't that a syndrome? African Americans too. It's a syndrome that by God's grace we will break. Talking is therapeutic, that is true. And seasonal affective disorder is real. Hello? So, She says voodoo belief is killing people.
Yes.
It is. Not
Yes.
everything is voodoo and not everything is spiritual. So we need to change the mindset. You know, Dr. Elisha, you know, when you come on the forum, you're going to be able to talk to us more about that. We have lots of experts on the forum. So,
I'll make a comment on that if you don't mind.
yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes too, you know, some of us are educated, but when it comes to the health, the level of education becomes extremely questionable. And I will give you certain examples. We do what we call remote patient monitoring, where we give patient blood pressure machine, they check their pressure, you know, transmits, and then we can manage them. We have the same situation in Nigeria. There's a highly educated individual that was given a machine to check their pressure. And the person said, oh, now you guys want me to die. I'm not gonna do that. You know, so the impression of checking pressure and submitting is that now you're making them, you're telling them they're about to die. We have had situations where they are in flood heart failure. This is even here, Nigeria. They are diabetic, hypertensive, had many strokes, but they believe in their core that it was when they crossed the land, when they went to the village, that when the issue started. These are highly educated individuals. So the type of education we need to even get to where people can be able to be open to this type of thing, it requires all of us to really work and talk about it, talk it openly, and work with people. And not think that because they're highly educated that they understand. You bring yourself to the level of just trying to make them understand until they understand.
Thank you. Excellent point. Thank you. So it takes a village. It takes all of us to do this. And again, you know, this Dr. Luguterah, I know you started off with, I don't know anything about insurance, but guess what? Your answer was right on point. You know more than you admitted to. Sister Monique wrote again, you know, I'm reverting back because I don't leave any points unturned, said, when you were talking about the nursing home and people having assets, having to pay for their own nursing home, she said that's why people put their assets in a family or business. Trust, so that when it's time to go to a nursing home or long-term care, the government will know about those assets and they can help without you liquidating your assets to pay. It's incorrect. So it says, you know, I'm getting comment from Madam VP here that it's incorrect that you have to make honest declaration of what you have. This is a territory that I do not understand, but like I said, we're going to bring experts to help us in this issue. So thank you, Madam VP. Dr. Craig, you have your hand raised. Fantastic. Because you have this question that I was about to read. Go ahead, please.
One of the issues, having had to deal with seniors going into nursing homes, the issue now is something called spend down. We have to prepare for the seniors who are now entering a nursing home. Well, we should have prepared 7 years earlier before that action takes place. Otherwise, the nursing home has access to all the monies and or property and or value that individual possesses as they enter the nursing home. And it is critical because they will get that money at this point. So if we're going to look at someone going into a nursing home, it used to be 5 years. Recently, they raised it to 7 years because they knew that individuals were hiding, quote, their wealth in some form of fashion. Very, very important. I had to deal with it in the last 2 years, basically with 2 individuals. So it's significant. And again, it speaks to Dr. Luguterah that we have to prepare. You have to prepare. You can't just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, oh, I need this. If you haven't put it forward earlier, you will be stripped of whatever you have at that point in time. I'll also want to just add quickly that you spoke about light. Now, light is critical, and it would be interesting. I know that there are studies about people who live in areas of the country, where it's 6 months light, 6 months dark, in terms of how it impacts our ability to move forward, have positive thoughts. Well, there is a brand of light in the marketplace called Vitalite, whose spectrum speaks to impacting the alpha waves of our brain. And that is something which basically allows us to calm down and relax and take care. The brand is called Vitalite. You can access it, go online, look it up, check it out. But it's available to you, and it just serves those who might have difficulty in terms of relaxing, a difficulty in terms of vision. So something to look at and just be aware of.
Good vision, as in seeing well,
as in
or vision in what one wants to do in life.
Yes.
Which
well,
one?
If you are calm and relaxed, you have greater ability to think and see more.
Okay, got you. Thank you. Thank you. So that's another light, seasonal affective disorder, that would help. Madam VP also raised the point that, just from the comment you just made, that why don't you spend that wealth? Why don't we spend that wealth in taking care of our health, rather than now waiting to, get into nursing home and then all of that? I guess, and again, that's why we're discussing this, prevention. So we can prevent things that are preventable. Dr. Craig, you're lost in thoughts.
True. Very true. I'll also add, because I've had a recent experience, that there are levels of nursing homes which I would not truthfully take my animal to at this point. And those which are of quality require some degree of wealth at this point. And again, it just speaks to the entire thing we've been talking about in terms of preparation. As I said, part of living is dying. And if we don't take care of living, we're not taking care of all the aspects of it completely. So your point is well raised in terms of it can be a necessity as we approach a certain level of age and need. So it's something we need to address and speak to all the time, subtly, aggressively, however we do it, gently, but it needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Whew. So, going back to depression, Dr. Luguterah, I have a question here. Proper nutrition, or a comment that I'd like you to address. Sister Grace said, proper nutrition to improve mental wellness, checking endocrine health, and correcting imbalances are equally essential. What's your comment to that? Do we have nutrition to treat depression?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I cannot speak. I'm not a nutritionist in that sense. I don't have the specifics, but I do know that, especially when it comes to nursing home, we actually have a nutritionist assigned to everyone that comes in. So there's something to be said for that. Certain foods can help you heal better or heal faster. or put you in a better mood, right? And I also do know, I do work with children. We can always tell when a child is malnourished, there's a direct correlation between that and their behaviors in school. So whether they're going to concentrate, whether they're going to have a good day or not have a good day, all of that stems not just what they're eating, but the quality of it. If it had too much sugar, that's going to be a tough day. No one is listening, because then that sugar alone is able to make them have a different kind of behavior, right? So those things translate also when we are older, and we actually need to pay more attention to the foods we eat. So definitely, I cannot speak as a nutritionist, but I know for sure that it does impact your overall well-being, your mood even, right? Some of us eat certain foods and then we go to sleep, right? Because it immediately puts you to sleep. And some of us eat certain foods and we're on the go, we are energized and we're ready to go. So yes, on a scientific level, I couldn't speak to that, but definitely you want to be mindful of, you know yourself better. I might eat certain foods and be great. You might eat the same kind of food and have a different kind of reaction. But if you know yourself and you know what works for your body, what makes you feel lethargic, what keeps you going, what keeps you fit, things like that. If you're mindful of that, of the things you put in your body and the subsequent behaviors or reactions, then if you want to improve your well-being, you definitely want to gravitate towards those things that give you positive energy, right? Because otherwise, you're just going to keep feeding yourself things that don't help you, right? You could be eating certain things that would even lead into other kinds of illnesses down the line. And so that will only complicate your overall well-being, your overall emotions as well. So yes, I would say yes, it plays a huge role. Your diet is an important thing, especially as we get older.
Thank you. And the endocrine part, yeah. When somebody has underworking thyroid, is what I call it, hypothyroidism. Thyroid that is not working optimally, they have depressive-like symptoms. And if you put them on antidepressant and don't treat the underlying problem, you're not going to get to the bottom line. So you're not going to be able to treat that patient effectively. So what's the bottom line in that comment is that please see your doctor so that you can be properly diagnosed and intervention can be properly had. And Dr. Elisha, you wrote a mouthful. Be ready to speak, to go after Dr. Craig, because you're right. And so prepare to share this after Dr. Craig. Dr. Craig, you have the floor, sir.
Dr. Luguterah, the importance of nutrition cannot be overstated, period. It is critical that we not only prepare in terms of societal actions, but in terms of physiological states of being. If we've been eating poor food for the last 50 years, how can you expect a body to be of quality as we hit a certain decade? The importance of seeing an endocrinologist is critical, absolutely critical. They're the ones who basically tell us whether or not our enzymatic state is working properly, just as Dr. O pointed out in terms of thyroid or parathyroid or other issues that we might have in terms of our bodies going on. The importance of seeing, I'll qualify, a good nutritionist is critical. If you can find one, they are invaluable. Again, dealing with seniors in nursing homes, I've had to correct some of the way in which they have treated my family members in terms of their diet, because it is a generic kind of nutritional plan that they feed. If you have sugar, if you have salt, if you have too much of this or too much of that, it's a generic approach. They believe one size fits all, and unfortunately, that's not true. So your point about nutrition and its importance cannot be overstated.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know you like that nutritional thing. So, Dr. Elisha wrote about light therapy. Basically, I'll summarize what is written there. Light therapy is fantastic, and it does emulate, the sun, and helps people with seasonal affective disorder, which is just big word for weather changes, it gets dark, and mood gets dark. Depression follows. That's all that means. So some people are great, like I said earlier, during the spring, summertime, when there's light out, but when it gets dark in the winter, when it gets dark sooner than previous, they go into depression. Light therapy works, but you still need to talk to a doctor. You need to see your doctor, because if somebody has bipolar disorder, which is a disorder that, goes from depression to, the other side, like psychosis, they have too much energy. Sometimes they won't sleep for a week and they're still functioning. They spend money they don't have. They may become promiscuous, decent people, but then when they manic, when they have this mania, then they will sleep with anyone, and, excessives, that is not the norm. If somebody has that disorder, bipolar disorder, the light therapy can tilt them into the mania without supervision. The same thing when we start somebody on antidepressant. I love to see my patients in a week. I want to know how they're doing. Sometimes depending on what their history is, if I'm not too sure, I would like to see them like in 4 days, because then antidepressants that usually would take 2 weeks for the energy to come back. They're not medications that are quick fix. Within days, they would have this mad energy. They want to take on the world and all that. You'd be like, whoa, okay. Maybe we need a mood stabilizer to be added to this. Maybe there's more to this, and then we can investigate that. Definitely, I want to see my patient at the point of a week. After starting medication, I want to see them after a week so that I can reevaluate. For this same reason that Dr. Elisha wrote in the platform. Medication can be the answer in a lot of cases. And so thank you for that input. And Dr. Craig, do you still have your hand raised, or is it from previous? Okay, cool. Do we have any other questions? Wow. Amazing discussion. Please, like Sister Lola said, what should we do if we identify somebody with these symptoms, or you have the symptoms yourself? Email me, text me, reach out to me so I can connect you, and you can get taken care of. And so I'm going to now turn back to Dr. Luguterah to give us our closing remarks, and so we can close for tonight.
Closing remarks. So it is possible for all of us to improve our care, whether it's emotional care, physical care, whatever it is we do. It's important to understand the concept of pre-arming. That means being proactive, knowing the difference between what you have control over and what you don't have control over. When you don't have control over something, you can't do much about it. But when you have control over something, you can leverage that. It's also important to recognize what is glass and what is plastic, right? What is it that you must absolutely do? What is a crisis? What is not? Something can be important, but it's not urgent, right? And something can be very urgent and important. So if it's urgent and important, that becomes glass. You don't want to drop that. Because when you drop that, think of a glass, it's going to break into pieces. But if you drop something that may be important but not so urgent, you can always go back to it and take care of it. So you don't want to swap places, right? So let's, in our daily work, let's be able to know the difference between glass and plastic, whatever that means for you. And also recognizing that it's important to give yourself a little grace. There is not a single person on planet Earth, therapists included, who always have a good day. There's no one that is 100% well 100% of the time, right? You could be 99%, you could be 98, 78, whatever, but at least you want to be able to be around a grade that is decent, right? And be able to work towards, getting closer towards 100%, right? So there might be days that you might have off moments. That is fine as long as you are mindful of it. You are aware that I'm having an off moment. What is the reason? What is the underlying reason for how I'm feeling? And how can I pre-arm myself or be proactive so that I don't keep having that recurring situation? But yes, we all can take care of ourselves, and we should take care of ourselves because we have one body and we want to use it and keep it to the best of our ability. All
Thank
right.
you so much. Thank you. But you know what? Before I let you go, can you talk briefly on that forgiveness? Because I think forgiveness is huge. You mentioned it in your talk. Forgiving.
Right. So forgiveness. You know how they tell us that time heals all wounds and all of that. That is not really a true statement.
Mm-hmm.
What time does it gives you the opportunity to reconsider, to reevaluate, and to make decisions. So time gives you the opportunity. Time in itself doesn't take away or doesn't lead to forgiveness necessarily. When we don't forgive, it means anytime we remember, we recall something, or we see that person, it triggers a negative reaction in you. And that negative reaction is going to impact you personally. So we think that we're holding a grudge over that person and we have something against them, or, we have control over them. No, they have control over you. As long as whenever you see them, it triggers a negative reaction in you. So think about how, stress itself can bring a whole level of illness upon us, or can alter our mood. All these things, right? Pain, that you carry for so long. Think about excess luggage when you're traveling through the airport. You're going to pay a price on it whenever you're checking in or out, right? It doesn't matter the flight. As long as it's excess baggage, you're going to pay a price on it. So think about yourself also. That emotion you're carrying is excess luggage, and your emotions are paying the penalty for that. So you want to be able to be cognizant of that and to free yourself, right? You don't make yourself, a doormat to find yourself in the same positions where you're being offended. You learn from that. It doesn't become a wasted experience. You take it and you move on to the next thing, and you find ways to minimize it. But time itself doesn't heal. It only gives you the opportunity to reprocess and to be able to realign things. But it's important. Anything that consistently brings about a negative reaction in you negatively impacts your mood and your overall wellness. And that's a matter of fact.
Wow. Amen to that. Wow. People on the platform are thanking you. They're excited that you came. I am overly excited that you're here. Thank you so much for all you have imparted in us tonight. And you are blessed, as it says all over your head in there. In Jesus' name, you are blessed.
Amen.
Thank you. And to everyone on the platform, I just want to remind you that our amazing Dr. Luguterah is an author. She has authored the books, The Red Purse and A Thankful Christmas. They're both on Amazon. For your children, your grandchildren, these are important. I mean, you've heard her. So you can imagine what wealth are in the books. So, The Red Purse and A Thankful Christmas. Thank you for your contribution to the world. Thank you for the way you impact us. We appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Everyone, have a blessed night, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you for blessing.
Before you go, I want to say thank you so much, Sister Rosemary. I appreciate you for connecting me to Dr. Luguterah. You were right on point.
I told you.
Thank
It's
you.
good. You're
So,
welcome.
till we meet again next week, please stay safe. Remember, COVID is still very real, still very around. Don't take chances. I'm still treating and diagnosing COVID every day. And then there's the monkeypox, and with children, RSV. Influenza, flu is bad this year. I have people who have been ill since the beginning of December with flu. I told you we've lost over 3,000 people by the end of October this year for flu, or to flu, I should say. So please be safe. Let's see you again next week, bright and early, and